What's up guys, I'm Flying Scorpion. It is June 13th, 2020. We've recently had update number 28, the Deadlock Protocol for Warframe. Let's talk about it. Let's also talk about hard mode, ultra hard mode, which hasn't been released yet. I'm going to talk about an idea for a Warframe that I think would be cool for the game, and we'll talk about Powercreep. So first and foremost, update 28 is fantastic. The new Jackal boss fight is amazing. The sound design is cool. The visual effects are fantastic. The new gameplay mechanics with the boss are really well done. Also, they've done a good job with adding some tutorial elements there for new players and explaining the Parazon. It introduces you and uses the Parazon more. Keep in mind, guys, this is the very first boss that new players experience when they're playing through the game for the first time, aside from Vor during the tutorial. But I don't know if you can really count Vor during the tutorial because you can't farm him. He's not like a repeatable boss. It's just he's there in the tutorial to kind of get you started, and then you never actually kill him. And he's really easy, and this is an actual challenging boss fight. I'll put some background footage of me playing it. I had recorded some footage of me going through the sortie yesterday, and unfortunately that footage is corrupted and I can't use it for this video. So after footage of me fighting the Jackal, I'll just throw some random footage of me helping to level up my girlfriend with Saren on Hydron. Yeah, so the Jackal was done really well. The new Corpus Tileset looks fantastic. It seems like it's more conductive to the faster pace of Warframe now. Like, I was playing Gauss through the sorties, and I found some good long hallways and open areas to use his first ability and just sprint really fast. Being able to jump around without getting stuck on things feels really good. There's a lot of neat little hidden areas in there. And there's some story elements woven into the fabric of this tile set. So it's done really well. I mean, what else is there to say? Digital Extremes has really talented people, and they've got a really good game. It's worth trying out if you haven't tried it out. But this is why I like making videos about Warframe. They're very talented. They're also in Canada, just like me, and I'm proud of that. You guys have done a really good job. And if I haven't specifically said thank you to D.E. Sheldon for the pet system update, thanks D.E. Sheldon and anyone else that was involved in that. It really is appreciated. That in particular was the part that I liked the most about this update, to be honest with you. It was one of those things that was like a thorn in my side for a long time now, having to deal with the time it takes to change pets, especially for sorties. If you're playing a sortie, typically, you know, Warframe's a really fast-paced game, and people don't want to wait a long time between missions. They want to go from mission to mission through the sortie and get it done fast. And I have highly optimized builds for very specific situations. Like, I've got a specific Warframe and pet combination for doing interception mission. So if I get a sortie interception mission, I grab Hildren, I pair her up with the Kubrau that regenerates her shields, and then I lock down an area with Hildren, then I pop out into operator mode and I walk over to another area and I use Magus lockdown to lock down that area. So I'm holding down two zones at the same time. That build works really good for interception. Then, after that, if the next mission in the sortie is a spy, and I'm just using this as a hypothetical example, and then I got another build like Limbo with, I think it's the Harass Kubrau that makes you invisible. So Limbo can go into the Rift, walk through lasers, the Kubrau makes him invisible, really good for spy missions. Or I've got Ivara with the Kubrau that generates energy orbs, so she can stay in her invisibility mode permanently. I've got a build for that. But switching between these builds was really slow before. You'd switch the Warframe and the loadout option. You get all the different the weapons. You'd get the different arcanes. On the fly, you would switch your operator abilities and whatnot. But the pet would be locked behind this long clicking animation thing, and it was just annoying, and it took time. That's all done with now. And this is a good segue into this Warframe idea that I have. So before, and still today, we don't really have a Petmaster Warframe. We've got Cora, but she can only have two pets active at the same time. That's not really a Petmaster. And in order to circumvent the limitations of the previous pet system where you had to go through the stasis, her second pet isn't actually a pet that you grow and hatch from an egg. It's an ability. It's an actual Warframe ability. And that creates some differences in how Venari works in terms of gameplay mechanics than the regular pets that you would grow and hatch on your ship. So maybe now we can have an actual Petmaster Warframe that can have maybe 3 to 5 pets active at once. That could be busted overpowered, and we'll talk about power creep later. I care a lot about balance and keeping the power level fair in the game. So in order to deal with that, maybe that Warframe can have abilities that don't do direct damage or crowd control or healing. Instead, the abilities could be simply commands for the pets. It'd be a completely different way to play. And this is what I think makes new Warframes really interesting, is when it's completely new. Like Octavia, for example, completely new systems there, and that's what makes Octavia really cool. Or, for example, Protea and Vauban, they have these deployable things that you throw down, like technology, not direct abilities coming from the Warframe. That's what makes those Warframe cool. But we're starting to get to the point where Warframes are really overlapping, and it's kind of like the same but different. Like, Protea is like Vauban, but just the female version. Or like, for example, if you look at Saren and Nidus, they're both like infested, just slightly different, right? Well, not really, they're pretty different, but we're seeing these overlaps. In terms of really different gameplay mechanics, having a Warframe that can come to the battlefield with a pack of pets and give commands like follow me or stand over there or assist that player or attack that enemy right over there, or move over there and defend that area, or patrol around or run around fetching all the items and bring them back to me, run around and patrol and have them come up on my radar. Like, there's a lot of cool things that you could do with this idea. And I'm just coming up with stuff. Some of that stuff I just came up with on the top of my head right now. But yeah, that could be a way to keep it from being too powerful, right? And think of the combinations, like having 5 Kubraus with the maggots coming out of them and just creating like a carpet of maggots or larvae that crowd control a bunch of enemies, or having a whole bunch of those MOAs that create those bubbles that slow down bullets, right? It would be really cool. And that's what I like about Warframe. This is the thing that makes Warframe really unique and just a titan that towers over top of many other games in this particular area, is the complexity and the sheer volume of builds. The amount of builds that you can create is off the hook. I don't know if anyone's ever done the math or even can do the math to figure out just how many combinations there are between different Warframes and pets and weapons and all the things that come together to make a build. That's what I love about Warframe. That's what keeps me back, because it satisfies me in a way that no other game can in that area. There are other games that are similar to this, like for example Path of Exile's got a really complex customizable system, but Path of Exile is just a completely different type of game. It's not a futuristic sci-fi third-person shooter. It's its own category, like Diablo, for example. And that's just not something I'm into. But anyway, I think it's a cool idea. Let me know what you think. I posted about it on the forums a couple times. Maybe now with the update to the pet system and stasis, Warframe might be one step closer to being able to make this kind of idea a reality. Okay, let's move on now. What else is there to say? Well, still waiting for the hard mode and ultra hard mode, and this relates to power creep and Warframe. So when the developers add something like hard mode or ultra hard mode, it's kind of like conceding to the fact and admitting, okay, power creep has happened. The Warframes are so powerful now that it can trivialize the content. We need to add something more difficult to satisfy the players that need something that's more challenging. And that's good. I think that it's a problem that a lot of games have. It's normal for games to have this problem. I've actually been playing not very much Warframe lately. I've been playing actually a lot of Destiny 2, Phantasy Star Online 2, a little bit of Deep Rock Galactic, a little bit of Minecraft, and I think maybe a couple other games that I can't think of right now. But all of these games have this option to select harder difficulty, like Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal, you can select different levels of difficulty. Or in Phantasy Star Online, you can play at harder levels, and the enemy levels go up with it, right? But the thing is, it's not sustainable to constantly have increasing power level and then increasing the enemy levels, because it gets to a point where you need to figure out a system where you're not like scrolling through like 50 different levels of difficulty to find the one that matches for you. Like that can work, but it just feels really gamey. It really divides the player base across all these different difficulty tiers. There's got to be something that kind of keeps that under control. And currently, I don't think Digital Extremes is doing a good enough job of dealing with power creep and making sure that there's a long-term sustainability to Warframe. I know that's kind of a harsh criticism, but I don't think it's entirely Digital Extremes' fault. I think that, you know, it's not all your responsibility. Part of it is a responsibility of the community to support you in your decisions to rein in power and maintain balance in the game. And you've got a community that really supports it when you add overpowered stuff and really shits on you whenever you nerf things. And that kind of sucks. But it's not all their fault that they're like that. You've kind of created or curated a community like this. Every time you cave into the players and you buff something that doesn't need to be buffed, or you don't nerf something that needs to be nerfed, you're sort of catering to that part of the crowd and making them stronger. And I mean, maybe this is good for the long-term health of the game, but I'm not that type of player. I like to be challenged. I like it when the developers care about balance as much as I do. And that's why I've been playing more Destiny lately. Here's a big difference between Destiny and Warframe. Destiny recently announced this big move that they're going to make to address power creep in their game, or Bungie. And what they're going to do is they're cycling out old content in a way where it's not going to keep up with new content that they add. And this pissed off a lot of players. The problem is, whenever the developers add something new to the game, if it's not busted overpowered and it's just fair and balanced, people compare it to the previous stuff that's current, that was and always has been and still is busted overpowered. And if it doesn't overshadow that stuff, people don't use the new stuff. They keep using the same old busted overpowered things in the game. And it leads to a stale meta. It's not interesting, and that puts this pressure on the developers to keep upping the ante, to keep increasing the power level and add stuff that's bigger and better. But it gets to the point where you're one-shotting the enemies, and Bungie has specifically said they don't want to get to that point. And in Warframe's case, it gets to the point where you're one-shotting an entire room of enemies with something like the Kuva Brahma. And you know, the Kuva Brahma was really cool, and that's one of the things that's really neat, you know, when they add stuff like this. But when they first released the Kuva Brahma, I looked at that and I go, that is disgustingly overpowered. Like, it's disgustingly overpowered. And that's why it was used by so many players, right? And there's this pressure on Digital Extremes to keep doing stuff like that because people like that stuff. But is it really good for the health of the game? I don't know, man. Like, that's a tricky one. That's like an ethical and philosophical debate that, you know, it's hard to really come up with an objective measure of what's good for the game in that regard. But it certainly turns me off when I go into a mission and there's like one or two other people running the Kuva Brahma melting the enemies, and there's nothing for me to do. Like, I'm competing with them to get kills, and that's just not fun. Like, I want to be challenged. I want to feel like there's actually a threat to the enemies, right? Think about this. When was the last time that you failed a mission because you ran out of revives? I don't know, man. I can't think of that. We don't have that kind of stuff in the game very much anymore. Like, I don't run out of revives during a mission. Maybe I'll go down. Maybe I'm forced to revive myself once in a while, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind failing a mission once in a while. Like, I wouldn't mind being challenged in that regard. But the thing is, there's people in the community that freak out when they fail a mission, or that freak out when the developers nerf things, and they cheer them on whenever they add stuff that's broken, overpowered. And it creates problems in the long run. Like, it creates power creep where the developers have to go back and buff old things, like buff Vauban, and then buff him again because his ability doesn't do percentile health-based damage, right? Or, like, that's a good thing to have in the game. Or buffing Ember, or buffing Nyx, or maybe buffing Zephyr at some point. Like, this is a problem, and I don't know if it's a sustainable thing, because as the game gets bigger and bigger, the pool of things that will become underpowered and irrelevant is going to also get bigger if you keep on upping the ante every time you add something. So I think that Digital Extremes needs to figure out a way to deal with power creep. Adding hard mode and ultra hard mode is a good step for now, but I don't think it's the only thing. Now, I've gone on for a long time talking now, for 15 minutes, it looks like. So I'm going to just kind of quickly get to the next thing here. If they add hard mode and ultra hard mode, I think it's important that they don't tie rewards to it that are exclusive to hard mode and ultra hard mode, unless those rewards are purely cosmetic, or maybe like time efficiency rewards. Because if there's things that they add that affect gameplay, especially stuff that increases the power level of the player, or even if they don't intend to increase the power level of the player, just some unique side grade or something else, players will figure out a way to exploit it. The game is huge. I mean, if you could add a mod that does something really weird, like, okay, this mod makes the enemy sparkle with silver or something like that, and someone's going to figure out how to make that work with Mirage to give her a damage buff and break the game, right? Like, it's almost impossible to figure out how something's going to affect everything else in the game. So Digital Extremes has a really tough job when it comes to game balance. When they add something that's balanced, players go, that's really boring, but in my opinion, it takes incredible talent to add something that's balanced to a game that's as huge and complex as Warframe. But the players don't appreciate that. They only appreciate when they add overpowered stuff, apparently. But yeah, I think it's important that hard mode or ultra hard mode only gives cosmetic rewards or time efficiency, so that when I play, I'm motivated by maybe one of these three things: the intrinsic fun of playing something that's harder, a cosmetic reward where I can kind of show this trophy of honor, this badge of honor through a profile icon or a decal or something that shows, hey, I went through the entire star chart on ultra hard mode. And 3, maybe time efficiency. Time efficiency, like they have in Disruption. The Disruption game mode is one of Digital Extreme's best strokes of genius, one of the best things that they've added to the game. And here's why. You can play Disruption game mode slow and easy, where you activate one conduit at a time, everybody hangs around that conduit and doesn't get too far away, and you focus on one demolist at a time and you get through it. You're going to get the same rewards as you could get if you did it the hard and fast way, which is activating multiple conduits at the same time and then running around the map really quickly, hunting down those demolists and taking them down. That's faster. You get through the Disruption game mode rounds a lot quicker that way, but there's a higher risk of failure, and it's a lot harder because you have multiple stacking difficulty multipliers, like the enemies move faster and they deal toxic damage and they're tankier or whatever, right? That's what's so cool about the Disruption game mode, and that's what I also think it's very fair. If you want to do it the hard way, you can, but you're not going to get some exclusive reward that can only be obtained by doing it the hard way. You get the same rewards as the people doing it the slow and easy way. You just do it faster. So if they did something like that with hard mode or ultra hard mode, I think it would be very fair. Then you don't feel compelled to you have to play hard mode or ultra hard mode, but you can if you want to, and there's still some incentive to do that. So yeah, there's lots of things that I want to talk about in this video. I haven't made a video for Warframe in I think a month or more, but given that the developers have added update number 28, and my last video I repeated that I hope that they update the pet system, I really felt compelled to make a video and show appreciation and thank the developers, especially D.E. Sheldon, for moving forward with updating the pet system and all the other awesome stuff that they're doing. I am looking forward to hard mode or ultra hard mode. I am still dedicated to the game. I still, at least as a player, but yeah, that's it. If you have anything that you want to say about this, if it got you thinking about this, or about anything interesting, or if you have any feedback for me as a YouTuber, let me know in the comment section below. If there's a video, a subject that you want me to talk about, let me know in the comment section below. I might not necessarily make a video about it, but I'll probably at least reply to you and give my thoughts in the form of a written comment. But regardless of all of that, thanks for watching, guys, and take care.